everybody, how are you doing? Hope you're keeping well and keeping nice and safe. I'm hoping this will be a nice activity for all ages. It's a memo board. I make quite a lot of them. I've got a few around the house, so they're kind of just simple padded canvas boards, and then you can store all your kind of memories in there. I used to store tickets and all sorts of nice things like that in there. That's the one that's on my wall at the moment. Whoops. So it's got a few thank you cards and a few very important takeout menus, and it's got a timetable for my gym. I don't know why I leave that there. I don't really use it. And then an invite to a wedding that will happen hopefully next year instead. So I quite like to have it. It's quite a good place. I've got my Wi-Fi code in there, and I'm often heading over to it in the lounge to see what I need. So yeah, so I've that fabric there was a fabric that I picked up, and if you can just about see it underneath everything, when I was in Malawi. So it's quite a nice memory of my time there. And then this one is just a fabric that I found in a store, but I quite like these contrasting pins, which are actually quite easy to find. I'm just going to use standard pins today. So yeah, hope you're all well. Do let me know where you're from. Do let me know what else it is that you make. I've got 3 more videos lined up in the next couple of weeks doing bauble wreaths and Christmas decorations and something else which I've forgotten, but all nice crafty projects, so it's nice to have you along as we kind of try and keep sane in these crazy times. So let's get started. I think a few of you are here. Nice to see you all. So yeah, the basic kit, what I'm going to try and do, because some of the stuff like a staple gun you may not have at home, but I've been brainstorming some ideas as to what you could use if you don't have those things. And I've actually pretty much thought of alternatives for everything, which could make it really easy, really cheap to make without buying some kit. So let's just show you my table of things. So ideally you want a staple gun, and this is a nice simple one, but I don't have the right pins at home. But if you had the standard kind of drawing pins that you use for a board, the flat ones, they would also do. So I'll show you in a moment how we'll use those. Again, this is the other tool that might be a little bit difficult to, you might not have at home, and all. I find it very useful. I call it a pokey tool. But I have been thinking of alternatives. You could use a quick and pick. That would be the same sort of sharpness. Or you could use a nail and a hammer, and I'll show you what we're going to use that for later. You're just going to need some standard sewing pins, and you're going to need some split pins, just the ordinary type that you use for for stationery. You can pick them up anywhere. The one thing to note is that they do need to have quite a long legs on them. So these are about 20 millimeters, 2 centimeters long, almost an inch, and that's quite important because it goes through quite a long distance with the foam and the canvas. Okay, so there are little cute mini ones that you can buy online. Just avoid those because they're not much use for this. And then obviously a pair of scissors, and then your chosen fabric. This fabric I bought in Thailand. This is my previous life of a jet traveller, so it'd be quite nice to have this. And then I'm thinking of making a matching lampshade for it later as well. And then some ribbon, and again it's kind of up to you. I like this kind of ribbed ribbon. You need quite a lot of it, you'll see later. This is again probably, I'd say 1.5 centimeters, 1.2 centimeters, something like that. It's bigger than a centimeter, so I find that a little bit easier, but I have done it with thinner ribbon as well before. Cool, so let's get started, and let me know if you've got any questions. I'll keep an eye on the screen and help you out. So obviously the other 2 things which I'm forgetting to mention that are very important is you need a canvas. I've got a huge canvas here. This was £2.29 in Home Bargains. I've also seen them in the Works and Hobbycraft, and there's a little cheap shop on the corner by me, and they all have them, so you can choose any size. This one is 50 by 60 centimeters, and I find that a really nice size to fit on the wall, but whatever you prefer. And then you need a piece of wadding. Now, I find wadding can kind of add up. It's also quite a synthetic material, so I don't know if any of you get those Hello Fresh or Gusto meal boxes, but they always come with one of these things inside. Let's have a little look. I'll have a little read of that later. Someone's making flower pot men. That sounds amazing. Send me a picture. Yeah, so this, I have a HelloFresh. I only ever do it when I get a cheap deal. But they actually come with the perfect size piece of foam that I place on top. So yeah, do keep them, or ask around, ask in your local Facebook groups. I've done that, and they've all turned up at my doorstep, because lots of people in my area get HelloFresh and then they don't know what to do with these things. So that's my top tip. You can have that for free. So what I'm doing is I'm putting the canvas down first. I'm then placing my my foam on top, and then I'm taking my piece of fabric. It doesn't really matter that it's not ironed, which is my favourite type of craft, wrong way, because you're going to stretch it quite a lot. So you're just going to place your fabric on top and make sure you like the pattern. So obviously if you haven't cut your fabric already, let me show how much bigger it is. So I've cut it about 10 centimetres longer than the whole kind of not circumference, what's it, the outside diameter of the shape. All right, so it's about 70 centimetres by, no, it must be, yeah, 70 centimetres by 80 centimetres, because there's an extra 10 centimetres on either side. Okay, so I'm going to flip all that over, and I'm going to pop my camera down so you can see what I'm doing. And I'm going to do this edge first. So you can just staple it down, but obviously that looks a little bit ugly. So what I'd suggest is that you fold it in as you would a seam, and then you take it right the way to the edge. Okay, so if you can see there, it'll probably be easier when I do this side, but I just want to make sure that I've got, like, it looks nice on the back and the front. Now if I'm using a staple gun, that's nice and easy. Sometimes if you find it difficult, so it's very bright, the light here, very unusual, my house is normally quite dark, there you go, it's a bit better. If you find it, like, holding it like this can be a little bit tricky because it's uneven. What you could do is get something like a chopping board, let me just have one underneath all this, so that you've got less, it's a little less stressful. So I've got this chopping board here, and that means that I can place it and it's flat rather than on a tilt. So that is quite a handy little extra to have. It's quite loud, sorry everyone. Now if you haven't got a staple gun, like I said, I didn't have any at home, but you know these sort of pins, just the classic drawing pins. You could actually press these in and then attach it that way. Again, maybe hitting it with a hammer to get it nice and flat. But again, I've got a staple gun, so I don't want those. Pretty good fit. So that was my idea for an alternative, because I don't really like the idea of people going out and spending lots of money on things that they only need once. You may as well go and buy a memo board if that's the case. So I think drawing pins would be great. If you've got any other ideas, do share them, because it is always good to have different ways of crafting. Now when you do the opposite side, so I'm up here now, what you need to do is, let's move it in, make sure I'm working on the flat table. So you're really going to pull it up so that it's pulling underneath and making it nice and flat. So I'm going to, once again, roll that over, and I'm going to bring it right over to the edge there, so that I'm doing it on, and I know that I've got a nice neat finish. I often do the middle one first, and then I work from right to left. I like these videos, so it's a nice start to the day. I went and it's nice that it starts at 11 AM, don't you find? Oh, there you go. If you do have problems with your staple gun, you often find like that. There was a couple of staples that were loose, so I'm just replacing it. I do love a staple gun. And final one. So, and the other great thing I like about doing these videos is that it gives me an excuse to make things for my house. So here we go. There you go. So can you see? It kind of matches my outfit today. I've got like a nice covering all the way over, and then those two ends are nice and neat at the back. So now we're going to work on the long sides, and rather than just folding it over and doing it straight away, let me try and show you how I do my corners. It's all a bit tricky filming by yourself, isn't it? I try and do like, you know, like a hospital or a bed corner. So I push in the side there, and then, I'm trying to remember what I do now. Okay. then, sorry, push in the side and then I fold it over the top. Let me do it from me, nearer to you. So I've got this one already over, and then I'm pushing in that there, folding that down on the top, and then this one I'm rotating over. You can have a little play with it, but basically that looks kind of neat on the side. There's just like that little cross there rather than being all bulky. So just to show you again, so you're just pushing it down, pushing that in, and that going forward and that going over it. I think I've done it different both times, but you kind of get the idea that we want to keep it nice and neat. Right, so I'm going to get to work on these. 1, 2. So I hope everything's okay in your area. Obviously these new systems are quite interesting. I'm in Cardiff, so quite limited what we can do here, but I'm very grateful for having craft to keep me entertained. And for people who've watched a few of my videos, you'll also know that I've got a lovely dog, so she keeps me entertained as well. So, although she's just recently realised that there's a cat that lives across the road, so I've totally lost her attention at the moment because she's staring out of the window, wondering if the cat will reveal itself again. I think that might be where she'll be for the rest of the day. Cool, so that one wasn't as neat, but again, just flipping it over, tucking it under, and stapling it all the way down. And then this one, your fourth side, is your final chance to pull them nice and tight to make sure that you get as few creases on the front as possible. So do take your time with this fourth one. So again, just folding it over, pushing it back, and folding it over, and rolling it round. So it's a little bit of it's quite a lot to concentrate on. But yeah, I think the drawing pins would work really well. I did think about using nails, but the problem with nails is so little kind of surface area. You can get those little tacks, they would work quite well because they've got a bit more surface area. But again, do send me if you come up with any other ideas. I'm always up for coming up, trying to come up with practical ways to let people do things at home. I'm actually teaching this on Zoom to for a kid's birthday party, a 10-year-old girl on Sunday, so that'll be nice. So thanks for giving me this opportunity to practice. I think one thing I'll do is get a smaller board so it's a little bit easier to fit it all on the screen. I hadn't really thought of that. There we go. So all 4 sides are attached, and ta-da! That's the front of my board. So that wadding has made it nice and squidgy, so lots of room there for me to pin things into it. Okay, so next up we're ready for the ribbons. So like I said, I buy these like just over 1 centimetre. I thought I had a nice white one. Oh, here we go. Yeah. Here we go. So I went from white for this, and again, I sometimes use one colour. I sometimes use like contrasting colours. Have I done that? Yeah, I've done that on this one. So yeah, I don't know if you can see amongst all my stuff, but I can see it's all white, but then I've got a couple of black ones, just random, just a little bit of a accent colour. So this is where the pins come in. Okay, so again, let me just pop you like that, so you can see. Bam. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to lay the ribbon out, but we're going to make sure we leave a little tail at the end, and you're going to take it from one corner over to the opposite corner, and you're also going to leave a little tail on that one. So I've got a ribbon that's a little bit longer than the diagonal length here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some pins, because you want to plan your design before jumping in and stapling it in position. So the pins can be a little bit tricky, especially if you're doing it with kids. So you're just going to go in, and then you're just going to pop it back up again. So it's gone in and out, like so. And we're just going to put about 3 along the surface. 1, 2, 3. Now the reason I do this, now I've made a few, to be honest, I probably wouldn't do this stage as much because I'm fairly okay with like where they need to fall. I'm fairly confident with it, but I would definitely recommend for your first one is that you pin it all in position and then have a little look at it, because it's really upsetting if it's all a bit skew-if. So you'd have to undo it. So it's worth taking a bit of time pinning them all in position. So 3 pins along the length. 1, 2, 3. So again, I'll show you how that looks. Alright, so 3 pins down there, 3 pins down there. So those 2 are the easy ones. The next ones are a little bit harder because obviously you haven't got anything to gauge where they need to be. So what I sometimes do is I get like a little scrap of card, or even just a ruler if you've got one, and then you choose a dimension. So I realised, oh, I knew this would happen. Would you mind if I just quickly let the get the post? 2 seconds. So hopefully you can wait for me. So I knew he'd come. Oh, well, that's a funny story. Hi. He wasn't bringing me post. The other day it was rainy and cold, so I made my postman a cup of coffee and a piece of toast because I saw him at the top of the street and I felt sorry for him. And bless him, he's brought back my cup that I gave him. I would highly recommend giving your postman a cup of tea or coffee on their rounds, because he's since been, well, he's always been amazing to be fair, but he's been extra amazing at like leaving things in neighbours, and like even he knows where I work around the corner and he's brought things to my workplace. So yeah, make your postman a cup of coffee. So sorry about that. Cool, someone's yes. So, and then what you're going to do is you're going to find, like I said, I wish I had a piece of card with me, but I'm just going to use a sellotape as my ruler. All right, so what I basically want to make sure is that this is the same width as a sellotape, and then this is the same width as a sellotape here. So I want to make sure that my lines don't go skew-if and go a bit thinner on one side than the other. So just using something. So I would suggest that the distance between the 2 pieces of ribbon on a board this size would be about 10 centimetres. But obviously you can decide based on what you want, whether you've got little photos or big photos. And again, so a little tail, laying it out, a little tail on the other end, and then giving it a little cut. The only thing about him bringing my coffee is, where is the package that I was hoping for? Alright, so you can see, so that one's 10 centimetres here and 10 centimetres there. And then if I was to do another one, I would leave another 10 centimetres, or in my case, a sellotape, popping that in position by here, leaving a tail on this end, leaving a tail on that end, cutting it again, pinning it in position. Now let me know if anyone, I imagine you're not probably doing this live because you probably didn't have everything in front of you that you needed, but if you are, let me know, because I can carry on doing it nice and slowly. But if you are just watching and hoping to make this later when you've been able to gather the things, then maybe I'll just carry on and do the next stage, because I think you probably understand now what you need to do. So you would continue, you would do this way, you would make sure each time that it was the same, you would do the next one, here and here, and then overall you'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 along the diagonal, and then 5 against the, well, sorry, horizontal and vertical kind of lines going throughout. And again, my friend does some lovely ones of these. She does kind of creative V shapes and all sorts of different patterns. You don't have to be as kind of organised with the lines as this, but this is how I do them, with about 10 centimetres in between. All right, so yes, it looks like Trisha's there making notes. So again, hopefully she'll go, these are great presents, I'm sure you'll agree, and you could get them to correspond in people's houses. There's also, if you don't have full pieces of fabric, you could get a bit creative on doing like patchwork versions of fabric. You know, like I always think, I keep meaning to do one maybe for a baby with like, you know, like a patchwork of baby clothes. Loads and loads. Have a little look on Pinterest. Loads of ideas if you type in memo boards. Okay, so assuming that you're all happy with the ribbon stage, I'm going to carry on and I'm going to show you the last stage, which is how to secure all these so you can remove the pins. So the first thing we need to do is secure the ribbons. So what I do is I just wrap it round. The ones on the corners, you've just got to be a bit careful to make sure that you get them on the right angle there, so they're not sticking out too much. So you have to manipulate them a little bit and really pull them quite tight. And then my staple gun comes out again and I'm popping it in the back so that it's secure. Now if you want everything to be nice and neat on the back as well, you could also kind of cut this down a little bit more now, and you could tuck it under, and you could also staple it there so that you feel like it's not kind of you know, like sticking out like that. If you don't mind, you can just cut it off there so it's ready to go. So I'm just going to staple down a few of these. So again, each time, my top tips for this would be, don't just turn it over and start stapling them all one after the other, because of course they're all going in different directions, and it's important that you follow those directions and that you make sure each time that you are not pulling it in a funny direction and making it look ugly at the front. So I would always recommend, look at the front, check it looks nice, and then staple it. Look at the front, hold it, make sure that it looks nice, staple it. Hold it. Like I said, be careful with these corner ones, make sure you get them as flat as they can be. Just look at this one, make sure it's nice. Staple. Couple more to do and we'll get started on the split pins. And yeah, oh, I'm quite excited to get this finished. Good Friday feeling. That's it, that's all I've got to do for today, but yeah, you'll have a few more to do. Okay, now the pins can come out, so you can just remove those and everything should hopefully stay in place if it's all been done correctly, like so. Yeah, I do this with children as young as 7 with a little bit of help, often with the staple gun stage and with the pinning. They love it, they do, and they obviously love the end result and how quick it is. Okay, so at the final stage, so I use an awl. I love my awl, it's one of my most useful craft products and very easy to get hold of. And then all I'm going to do is go through, and I'm going to make sure I go quite deep into it and that I go through all the layers. Now what you don't want to do is do all those and then come back and finish it later. So you need to do them straight away, because obviously there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers of material with that hole there. So you do need to be quite quick to take it out, don't move it around, and straight away pop your split pin in, flip it over, like so, and split the pin. And that's why at the beginning I mentioned I wouldn't suggest getting pins that were shorter than this, like 2 centimetre legs, otherwise it isn't a secure fit. In fact, a couple of these have popped off, the one that I've made before, and they were slightly shorter, and where I've stuck lots of things in there, I've just noticed one of the pins has popped out. So you would carry on like that, you'd go through, I probably wouldn't suggest you do it facing your body, that's probably not one of my wisest ideas. So just do it down towards the table, but again, maybe put a chopping board down because you don't want to scratch your table. And then straight away, grab your pin, popping it all the way in, going through and splitting that pin behind. If you're super organised, you could face them all the same direction, make it look nice on the front and the back. Like I said, alternatively, if you haven't got an awl at home, you could try using a quick unpick. So just forcing that. I haven't actually tried this myself, so let's see how this works. So it's a pretty good hole there. It will be a little bit harder because it's definitely a bit smaller than the awl. Oh, and then how about if we use that and then use this nail that I've got? Oh yeah? Can't get through the canvas. Oh yeah, that's not bad. So using a nail and then using the pin. Oh yeah, there we go. I'll have to remember that because sometimes I can't find enough awls for everyone in the class. So splitting it behind. And then the other idea I had, which if you haven't got one, is using a nail using, oh, I've run out of options there, I'll do a fake one, okay. I was thinking you could use a nail, you could use, and I put a board underneath to protect my table, and then I'm going to hammer into the board and then go through. I think that's going to work. Yes, fab. All right, so just using a nail and a hammer and something underneath so that you don't go through to your table. That's good to know. All right, so hopefully that'll be helpful to you. I'll stay on for a minute if you want to ask any questions. I see there's been a few already and I was kind of busy, so I didn't have a look, but I can see that someone asked about, is it padded? Yes. You can just use any wadding. I find that if it's slightly thicker, it looks nicer, but the padding that I've used, as I mentioned at the beginning, is actually from the HelloFresh box deliveries that I have for my food every now and then when they have a special offer. So do message a few friends because they're quite popular these days, and they come with this big bit of wadding, and then you feel a little bit better for the environment. I think Gusto boxes as well give those. So yeah, so wadding is essential. Otherwise, I've used it without, but they look rubbish. They look much better, and it's much more fun sticking things in there. Cool. Ribbon is 1 centimetre wide. Yes. I think it's. I wish I had a ruler. I've got a craft table here and no ruler. I would guess that it's a tiny bit. This is about 1.2, but this one here is about 0.8, and that also works. So something like that. Whatever you've got at home will work. Any more questions? And like I said, yeah, the fabric is 10 centimetres wider than whatever canvas you buy in both directions. So this was 50 by 60, so the piece of fabric was 70 by 80. And like I said, and I bought the canvas for £2.29 from Home Bargain. So actually, quite a good value final product really. It's probably, the fabric was only a couple of pounds, the ribbon was only £1. So yeah, maybe a £5 to make it, which is nice. So yeah, all right. So if you do have any more questions, I'll keep checking this chat. Oh yeah, someone's saying they wish they'd picked some wadding up from someone's bin. Maybe go back to their house and ask them if they have it every week and if they've got any more. Yes, yes. Oh no, the wadding doesn't need to go over the edge. I cut the wadding exactly the same size as the canvas. In fact, the HelloFresh one is a tiny bit smaller, but it doesn't really matter. Can you see it's a tiny bit shorter there? But I don't think it's worth taking it over the edge. I've never really tried. You could maybe, but I think it would make everything like stapling it all a little bit more difficult. So I don't think there's any need. So yes, thanks, Steph. Yes, so good to see lots of questions. It sounds like you're all kind of quite excited to make one. And yeah, again, I always check this post for the next couple of weeks. So do add any pictures of anything you make. It's always nice to see that that these little classes are useful to you. And I do have loads of tutorials on my website as well. I'm always just shamelessly jumping on a camera and chatting away. So I've got my website is larkdesignmake.co.uk, and there's a tutorials page with about 50 free tutorials. So yeah, get crafty, and if not, I will see you in a couple of weeks when I think we're doing bauble wreaths. The Christmas word is beginning, and yeah, for that you need baubles, a ring and some tinsel, and maybe a hot glue gun if it starts to go a bit wrong, but hopefully not. All right, have a lovely afternoon, and I hope to see you again soon. All right, bye.